Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into pre-sales.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's something that I think is super important for sales success,
Yeah.
but often gets overlooked, right?
Mm-hmm.
We found this awesome blog post from the Sales Experts.
Oh, cool.
It's called "The Crucial Role of Pre-Sales in Winning Deals: Strategies for Success,"
Okay, great.
and I figured we could break that down today.
Awesome. I'm excited to dive in.
Did you know that, like, companies with dedicated pre-sales teams see, on average, a 30% higher win rate?
Wow, that's significant. I mean, it really
Yeah.
highlights how much of an impact pre-sales can have.
It's huge. It's not just, like, a little bump,
Yeah. Right.
So clearly something's going on there.
Yeah,
And that's why I think diving into this article is going to be so valuable for our listeners.
absolutely. I mean, if you're not leveraging pre-sales, you're leaving a lot on the table.
Right. Okay, so let's jump right in. This article from the Sales Experts, they really break down why pre-sales is so important.
Okay.
And one of the things they highlight is like really understanding those customer needs.
Yeah,
You know,
that makes sense.
it's kind of, I think about it like being a detective.
Oh, interesting.
You've got to do your research right.
Yeah,
You got to uncover those pain points before you even start talking about your product or your solution.
I like that analogy. Because it really is about digging deep, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not just skimming the surface.
It's not just being like, oh, yeah, you have a problem. We have a
Mm.
solution. It's like, okay, what is the specific problem? How is that impacting your business?
Right.
What are your goals? Like really understanding that.
And I think that's what separates, a good pre-sales team from a great one. A
Yeah,
great pre-sales team doesn't just go through the motions. They really take the time to understand the customer, their business, their industry, everything.
exactly. They're
Yeah,
not just trying to sell a product, they're trying to solve a problem, right?
exactly. They're becoming a trusted advisor, a
Mhm.
partner.
Yeah.
And that's so important for building those long-term relationships.
And, once you have that deep understanding,
Yeah.
you can come in with a solution that's perfectly tailored to the client's needs.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
customized to their specific situation.
Right. Have you seen that make a difference in real-world sales situations?
Oh, absolutely. When you can walk into a meeting and say, we get it, we understand your challenge, and here's how we can help, it completely changes the conversation.
Right.
You're not just pitching a product, you're offering a solution to a problem they've been struggling with.
That's like you're speaking their language.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're building that instant credibility and trust, which is, let's face it, essential for closing those big deals.
Yeah. And speaking of showcasing solutions, the sales experts, they talk about the importance of tailored demonstrations.
Yes.
This is where I think the pre-sales teams really get to shine.
Absolutely. It's not about those, generic cookie cutter demos anymore.
Right.
It's about creating a customized experience for each customer that addresses their specific pain points and shows them the value.
So it's not just about like listing features.
Right.
Right.
It's about painting a picture of how those features translate into real-world solutions for that particular client.
Okay. Can you give us an example of like how that would look in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're selling a software platform that helps businesses streamline their marketing efforts, right?
Okay.
Instead of just showing them, all the bells and whistles, a tailored demo would focus on, say, how that platform can help them increase lead generation or improve conversion rates, whatever their biggest priorities are.
So you're really showing them, okay, this is how it applies to you. This is how it solves your specific problem. I
Exactly.
love it. It's all about showing, not just telling.
Mm.
And I think that leads perfectly into another point the sales experts highlight. It's building relationships.
Absolutely.
This is huge. Pre-sales, it's not just about, technical expertise. It's about building that human connection, right?
Yeah.
Establishing rapport, creating that foundation of trust.
You're laying the groundwork for a long-term partnership, not just a quick sale.
Exactly. And that's especially important in, more complex B2B sales, where the decision-making process often involves multiple stakeholders.
Right.
It can take months, sometimes even years, to play out.
It's a journey, not a sprint.
Right. So building that relationship early on is key.
Absolutely.
The sales experts also talk about the importance of technical expertise and support, particularly in these complex B2B sales environments.
Yeah, that's crucial. I mean, you need to be able to answer those tough questions, address any concerns, and really demonstrate how your product integrates into their existing systems.
It's like having a dedicated team of experts who are ready to dive into the technical weeds and give clients that peace of mind,
Right.
that their needs are going to be met.
They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. They're there to show the value.
That's key, especially when you're dealing with clients who are, very technically savvy themselves.
You need to be able to speak their language, absolutely.
You got to know what you're talking about.
And be able to address their concerns on that technical level.
Right. And the sales experts, they also emphasize the importance of providing detailed product information.
Right.
Making sure those clients have all the details they need to make an informed decision.
It's all about transparency, right?
Yeah.
Clients want to know exactly what they're getting. And it's the pre-sales team's responsibility to provide that information in a way that's, clear, concise, and digestible.
So it's not just like a data dump.
Right? No. It's about presenting that information in a way that's meaningful.
That's relevant to them.
That resonates with their specific situation.
And I think this is where, again, that deep understanding of the customer comes into play. Right?
Absolutely. The more you know about them, the better you can tailor that information to their needs and preferences.
Another area that the sales experts highlight is the collaboration between pre-sales and the sales team.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to putting together proposals.
That's a critical partnership. Pre-sales brings that deep understanding of the customer to the table, and then they work with the sales team to develop proposals that are, compelling and persuasive.
So it's not just about throwing a bunch of numbers and features at the client. It's about crafting a narrative that resonates.
You're telling a story, and pre-sales plays a key role in developing that story.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
No.
The sales experts talk about handling objections, but preemptively.
Ooh, I like that. Tell me more.
So think about a typical sales process, right?
Okay.
Objections, they often come up during the presentation or during the negotiation stage. And by then, you're kind of on the defensive.
Right, you're trying to put out fires.
Yeah, you're trying to overcome these obstacles that could have been addressed much earlier.
I see where you're going with this.
So the idea is to be proactive.
Get ahead of those potential roadblocks.
Yes. And that's where, again, the pre-sales team's expertise really shines. Because they've invested the time to understand the client. They can anticipate those objections.
Right.
And address them head on before they become a major issue.
That's brilliant.
Right.
It's like clearing the path for the sales team to close that deal smoothly.
Exactly. It's about creating a more streamlined, less frictionless process.
I love it. And honestly, I think it makes the whole experience more enjoyable for everyone involved.
Right.
Less stress, more collaboration.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
It sounds like pre-sales teams are kind of like these unsung heroes of sales success.
I would agree with that. They're the ones doing the groundwork, building those relationships, setting the stage for those big wins.
Yeah. And this article from the sales experts really highlights the value they bring. But before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
It's the importance of measuring the impact of pre-sales.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of organizations struggle with that because pre-sales doesn't always have a direct quantifiable impact on revenue.
Right.
It can be difficult to, demonstrate their ROI.
You can't always say, pre-sales generated X amount of revenue.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean their contribution isn't valuable.
Right.
It just means we need to find more creative ways to measure that impact.
So how do we do that? What metrics should we be tracking?
Well, that's a great question. And it's something we're going to dive into in part 2.
Stay tuned.
So you want to know how to measure the impact of your pre-sales team?
Yeah, give us the goods. What are the metrics? What are we looking at?
All right. Well, first off, think about deal win rates.
Okay, yeah.
Are those deals that involve pre-sales closing at a higher rate than the ones that don't?
Makes sense.
Track that over time. Look for those patterns.
Yeah, that data can really tell a story, can it?
Absolutely. And it's not just about closing more deals, right? Think about deal size.
Uh-huh.
Are those pre-sales deals typically bigger, more impactful?
So we're not just looking for quantity, we're looking for quality too.
Exactly. If your pre-sales team is consistently part of those big wins, that's a strong sign they're bringing real value to the table.
Okay, so win rate, deal size, what else?
Well, time is money, right?
Always.
So sales cycle length, that's a key metric.
Right.
Is pre-sales helping to shorten that cycle?
I mean, if they're handling those objections early, smoothing things out for the sales team,
exactly,
it stands to reason that those deals would close faster.
Precisely. That kind of efficiency can be a game changer for any sales organization.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, it's not all about crunching the numbers.
Right. Oh, right. But you got to consider the human element too, Customer satisfaction, that's a valuable indicator.
For sure.
For sure. Are those clients who interact with pre-sales having a better experience? Are they happier?
It's so easy to get lost in the data and forget about the people.
It happens all the time. But we can measure this, through surveys, feedback forms,
Yes.
even just anecdotal feedback from the sales team.
Just talking to people.
Exactly. Get that 360-degree view of the client experience.
So like a combination of quantitative and qualitative, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at those hard numbers like win rates, deal size, sales cycle length,
Uh-huh.
but we're also gathering those softer insights directly from the clients themselves.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
It's about looking at the whole picture and understanding how pre-sales contributes to that bigger picture of success.
Now, going back to the sales experts and their blog post, they had some specific strategies for, really maximizing that pre-sales effectiveness.
What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Well, that concept of tailored demonstrations really resonated with me.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that earlier.
We did. And I think it's worth emphasizing because, honestly, in today's market, you just can't get away with those generic presentations anymore.
No.
Clients are savvy. They do their research.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see how your solution specifically addresses their needs.
That's got to be relevant.
It does.
Yeah.
And pre-sales teams are in a perfect position to create those tailored demos because they've already done the legwork,
They've done the research.
Yeah, exactly. They understand the client's pain points, their goals, their challenges. They can connect those dots and create a demo that truly resonates.
So it's not just about showing off the product.
Right.
It's about showing how that product solves their problems.
Precisely. And that ties in nicely with another one of their key strategies, building relationships.
Yeah, we keep coming back to that, don't we?
We do,
Yeah.
because it's fundamental.
It's huge.
It's about going beyond the technical aspects of the sale and making that human connection.
It's about that trust factor.
Absolutely. Pre-sales isn't just about having all the answers.
Right.
It's about building rapport, establishing trust, creating that sense of partnership.
They're setting the stage for that whole sales process, aren't they?
They are. And, that first impression can make or break a deal.
Oh, for sure.
If that client feels heard, understood, valued,
Yeah.
that's the foundation for a strong relationship.
Speaking of making a good impression, one strategy that I found really interesting was that whole idea of handling objections preemptively.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Think about those traditional sales processes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Objections, they usually pop up during the presentation
Yeah.
or maybe during the negotiation phase.
Right.
And at that point, you're on the defensive.
Right, you're playing catch up.
You're scrambling to overcome these obstacles that, frankly, could have been addressed way earlier.
So the idea is to get ahead of it all.
Exactly. Be proactive instead of reactive.
I like it.
And this is where, again, that pre-sales expertise is so valuable.
Yeah.
They've taken the time to understand the client
Mm-hmm.
so they can anticipate those objections, address them head on before they become major roadblocks.
It's like clearing a path, right?
Exactly. It's about creating a smoother, more efficient sales process.
Less friction.
Less friction. And honestly, I think it makes the whole thing more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, less stressful for sure.
Less stress, more collaboration. It's a win-win.
So it really sounds like pre-sales teams are, like we said before, the unsung heroes
I think so.
of sales success.
They're doing the groundwork, building those relationships, setting the stage for those big wins.
And the insights from the sales experts, they really highlight that.
They do.
Now, for those sales leaders out there, for the hiring managers, the executives listening,
Mm-hmm.
what's like the one big takeaway, the one action they can take from this deep dive?
If you haven't already, seriously consider investing in a dedicated pre-sales team.
Or if you already have one in place,
Yeah,
make sure they're getting the resources and the support that they need to really thrive.
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, a strong pre-sales process is an investment in your entire sales operation.
Yeah.
And it can be the key to unlocking those high-value deals and achieving that lasting success that we're all after.
Could not agree more.
Hmm.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. So we've talked about all the ways pre-sales can boost those close rates, but I'm curious, how do you actually measure that impact in a concrete way?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Like, what metrics are we talking about here to really show the ROI of investing in pre-sales?
Well, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right?
Right.
There are a few key metrics that can give you a really good sense of how effective your pre-sales team is.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give us the rundown.
All right, well, we've already touched on some of them, like deal win rate.
Yeah.
Are the deals that involve pre-sales closing at a higher rate than those that don't? Track that over time. See if you notice any patterns.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
What else should we be looking at?
Deal size is another important one. Are the deals with pre-sales involvement typically larger? Again, look for trends. If pre-sales is consistently part of those big wins, that's a strong indicator of their value.
So it's not just about closing more deals, it's about closing those bigger, more impactful deals.
Exactly. And then there's the speed factor.
Okay.
Sales cycle length. Is pre-sales helping to shorten that cycle? If they're handling those objections early on, making the process smoother, you should see a reduction in the time it takes to close.
That's a big one, especially for companies that are, really focused on rapid growth. Time saved equals money earned.
Absolutely. But remember, it's not all about crunching numbers. We've got to consider the human side of things, too.
Oh, right. We've talked about that.
Customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
That's a valuable metric. Are the clients who work with pre-sales more satisfied overall?
It's so easy to get caught up in the data and forget about, the actual people.
It happens all the time. But you can measure this through surveys, feedback forms, even just anecdotal feedback from your sales team. It's about understanding the whole picture.
So to sum it up, measuring the impact of pre-sales means looking at those quantitative metrics, win rate, deal size, sales cycle length, but also gathering those qualitative insights directly from the clients themselves.
Exactly. It's about taking a holistic approach, understanding how pre-sales contributes to that bigger picture of sales success.
Awesome. Well, listeners, I hope this deep dive into the world of pre-sales has been insightful. Remember, investing in a strong pre-sales process is an investment in your sales success. And by tracking the right metrics, you can demonstrate that ROI and make sure your team is operating at peak performance.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.